Goodness gracious. I had my daughter hurt her ankle, so I had.
Hey
everyone, welcome
you.
to another edition, recording edition of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. My name is Paul Lathrop. I am the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Your team tonight is going to be on my right, Amanda Suffecool. She is Eye on the Target Radio, as well as I heard something about running for board of a major gun rights organization. Something like that.
Yeah, we're gonna know in the voting ends in 20 days as of midnight tonight. 20 days. Okay. NRA Board of Directors. I'm on the ballot.
Absolutely. Below Amanda. I'm still. I think this may be his new tagline. Featured on the next season of Bassmasters is going to be, as soon as I find his button, Charlie Cook riding shotgun with Charlie.
Yeah, no.
That's a story I gotta know now.
Yeah, right. Do tell.
So here's the quick story. I am not a fish guy. I don't like to eat fish. I don't like to go fishing because when I was a young child, I was smacked with a fish. So I'm anti-fish.
All right.
I was scared by a fish while I was a small child.
Yes. I hold it against all fish.
And I got to hear the story about who smacked you with the fish and why, because that's got to be something entirely.
Well, you know what? I'll talk to my therapist this week, and we'll dig all that up, and I'll share with you next time.
All right, sounds good.
Oh dear God!
And then below me is Kerrie Ann Auclair. Her connection to the firearms world is she is one of the hosts of Sisters in Arms of Firearms. Whoops, that's the wrong button. That's the correct button. Sisters in Arms of Firearms Story. Kerrie Ann, thanks for coming on tonight.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's see here. We're just about ready to get fired up. I'm connecting social media as we speak. And oh, by the way, if you are catching us on the Polite Society podcast, Facebook, or YouTube streams, you can comment there. We get those comments right away. I'll get them on the air. If you're catching us on Rumble, on Getter, on Twitter, on OpsLens, anywhere else, go to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag PSPodcast. That will get right to me. I'll get that on the air as well. Looks like we've got social media all hooked up. Let me see if I can get comments in. Yeah, we've already got check-ins coming from YouTube. Thank you, everybody, for checking in who's on YouTube. And I think we're just going to go ahead and as long as I go over to show notes, I think we're ready to start. And just for my team here, guys, I took the first DGU out because that was a DCU, defensive car use, not a defensive gun use. And really, it wasn't even defensive. So we're going to skip over that one. I added one below. So
is this where I insert you assumed I read it?
There you go. There is that. Of course, when Amanda reads, she has to get way up and right, like, so you see one eye.
One eye.
You look like a fish.
Oh no.
Yeah. And I can smack you.
Yes. Not only that, she'll smack you with a beige fish. So
a beige fish.
Those are the worst kind.
I'm telling you. I am telling you. All right, I believe on show notes. And by the way, if you're catching us and you're wondering what all this is about, it's really we're just giving each other a hard time.
Each other? What do you? Each other means other people would feel the brunt of this.
Well, Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie's feeling the brunt. Anyone else? Anyone? Bueller?
All right. I do believe on my end I'm ready to start the recording process, and it would really help for you to understand this, speaking to everybody tuning in live, if you are part of the pre-show, which is never, ever, ever broadcast. We'll just leave it at that. And it's a good thing. It's never, ever broadcast.
Just ask Charlie about the fish. That's all.
Yes.
That's all.
And then ask
I'm sure.
Paul about beige.
No, don't do that. You do not want to do that. Even before we get going, I want to get this comment in for Big John 410. Whoops. Why? That's why it's not. It's showing up in the wrong area. I got to bring this up, and I got to put that one in there, and I gotta
see. And by the time all of our listeners are done, they are all ready to be able to run the show because they can hear Paul do it. So they're pretty much learning how to run it just vicariously.
Yes. I should be charging because this is VMix Interaction 101 right here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And as you hear me typing, I'm just resetting things I should have checked before the show. All right.
Just saying, and we got a quiet keyboard. Can you tell?
It's a lot quieter than it used to be.
It is. That's the scary part.
It sounds like from the 80s or something.
All right, let's go ahead and where is if we're ready, then show notes intro should be all done.
We're ready.
Okay.
So Big John says there's no notifications on YouTube. Is that what you wanted to post?
Yeah, and the reason that is because I'm using I'm not broadcasting direct to YouTube. It's going through something called Restream. And they just, when I kick it to them, they go to YouTube, they go to Twitter, they go to Facebook, they go to everywhere. So that's why
they're everywhere. They're everywhere.
Yes, exactly. All right, let's do this, and I think we're going to change this up. No, we're going to go right with Masad Ayub. Just might as well stay with tradition. Masad Ayub, everybody, in 5, 4, 3.
Hey gang, this is Masad Ayub from the Pro Arms Podcast. I'm here to remind you that our podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network, and I'm going to suggest you do what we do and check out the other podcasts at selfdefenseradio.net.
Treat every firearm as if it's loaded.
Never point a firearm at anything you're not willing to kill or destroy.
Keep your finger off the trigger until you are on target and ready to fire.
Always be sure of your target and what lies beyond it.
Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Second Amendment Foundation's Polite Society Podcast. We're recording this live on Monday, March the 6th, 2023. I'm Paul Lathrop.
I'm Charlie Cook, and on tonight's show, we'll talk about an SAF win in federal court.
And I'm Amanda Suffecool, and we're going to discuss New Mexico's governor, who is suggesting a special legislative session if she doesn't get the gun control measures that she wants.
I'm Kerrie in Auclair, and we're going to discuss a defensive gun use segment. We're going to be talking about San Antonio Mall shooting that was stopped by a good guy with a gun. So climb aboard.
Strap in.
And hang on.
Episode 652 of the Polite Society Podcast starts right now. As we get going, I want to get a couple of comments in here, and then we'll get to the personal news segment. First one, well, let me go back to Big John. Big John was saying there are no notifications on YouTube. And then Robert says, Big John, I only received the notification they were live, not the 30-minute advance notice. And then, God bless you, Pete. Gun website says, pro tip, just be aware the show goes live each week at this time. So, there you go.
At 7 o'clock, 7:10, somewhere in there.
6 p.m. Central Time, the only time zone that matters.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Charlie, what time is it where you are?
It is 7:09.
Kerrie Ann, what time is it where you are?
7:09.
And it
How about
is
you,
7:09 where I am. So Paul,
Yeah.
outvoted.
Where is the server that this is being broadcast located at?
China.
6:10 p.m. Central Time. Once again, the only time zone that matters. Let's try to get the train on track. Speaking of trains being off tracks, Ohio, Amanda, what's been going on in your world since the last time you were on Polite Society?
I don't remember when I was on. Was it last Monday? It's been a little, yeah. I think it's been a little crazy for me. Well, obviously, I'm doing the run for the board of directors for the NRA, so that's got me pretty tied up. It is also Lincoln Day season for the Republicans, so there are fundraisers and dinners and events everywhere. The Second Amendment Preservation Act in Ohio is being heard in committee tomorrow, so there's a group of us driving to Columbus to testify for that. Those are, plus I did my show. I drove my hammer through some drywall. Just the normal stuff.
Oh, I saw that.
So Charlie, what about you?
Well, I have not been doing all of that. It's been about a month and a half since I've been on Polite Society, and since then I've filmed a couple shows in Virginia and in Pennsylvania. I've seen an uptick in people taking courses, which is wonderful. Last Tuesday, Matt Mallory and I did a show with Amanda and Rick Ector talking about their run for the NRA Board of Directors. And a couple weeks ago, I went to the Gun Owners Action League, was doing a seminar, and it was on Massachusetts gun laws. And Kerrie and Auclair actually went up and spoke about being the D.C. delegate from Massachusetts, and they had one of the other guys from the Gun Owners Action League talk about how to navigate the state's website. So that was a lot of information, a lot of fun, and of course we get to hang out with all of our pro-gun friends. That's what I've been up to. Kerrie Ann, what has been happening with ya?
Oh, just we actually recorded today 10 and 11 episodes for Sisters in Arms, and actually we did we actually did 9 as well, and we met with Mike Sedini from Walk the Talk America, and we interviewed with Karen from the Samaritans talking about mental health and guns today, and Jim Wallace and talking about the listening tours that are going on over here in Massachusetts, which is regarding suicide prevention and mental health. So yeah, a lot going on. It's a lot of fun.
All right.
Important topics.
On my end, this is 1 week today that I've been back from vacation, and I need a vacation. I really do. We're getting forecast snow every day this week. And I want to be back where this picture was taken. Is what's going on with me. Just a whole lot of getting back in the swing of things, getting things lined up for Bullets and PSP broadcasts going forward. And I haven't even been shooting since I've been back. One interesting thing is, because of the laws in the Virgin Islands, I spent 1 week and I didn't carry a single time. And that, I tell you what, that's enough to break a habit. And getting back into the good habits that I'd established for several years, there are a few. I mean, it's a process of getting back used to carrying everywhere you are. And by the way, I could stand up and show my right hip to the camera, and you could see I'm carrying, but I don't think it's really necessary.
Anyone else want to show their hip?
Yeah. Well, we do want to keep this a PG show. So
we do.
Let's get this up here. Dana says, "We've seen Charlie's mechanical skills. Let's keep him away from any hammers."
Right.
Oh God, there's another story.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure Charlie's got many. Robert says, "Funny, but I think guns help my mental health."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Absolutely.
You know, I've heard it described as shooting, especially if you're talking long range shooting, but really almost any type of shooting. When you get focused on what you're doing, I hear it quite often compared to golf, in that you drop into a zone and you get a calmness and a serenity about you.
Like
And
yoga.
I certainly find that, especially when I'm with my AR, reaching out and touching things at a distance.
Well, what does Shaky Dave call it? Gun therapy?
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's. I do need to real quick. I need to tell everybody before we go to our first break about the Self Defense Radio Network. All your pro freedom podcasts in one place, of course, is your tagline. As you can see, those of you that are joining us live or catching us on a replay, the Polite Society podcast is up there. Self Defense Gun Stories, Rob's show, Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Eye on the Target Radio. There are right now on the website 15 shows with more to come. I really need to get with the board and get this moved along, because there's been one show I believe has been waiting about a year to get on the network, and that would be Dan Waz's show, and we really need to make that happen. But I'm hoping to get everything, all the stars aligned and everything, so that very soon you'll be seeing more shows on the network. Guys, I think we need to go to our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive straight into the news, first of which is a Second Amendment Foundation release from Friday of last week. We had good news in the legal world. We'll talk about that when we come back, right after hearing from ACLDN.
This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by the Armed Citizens Legal Defense Network. If you carry a defensive handgun, you need protection from the aftermath of prosecution. Even if you do everything right, you can be the victim of an overzealous prosecutor or even be falsely accused. That is where the ACLDN comes in. They provide immediate assistance when you need it most. If you find yourself under arrest, they immediately pay bail money and the retainer for your attorney. Additional funds are available for trial and civil proceedings. Beyond the money, they have far and away the best team in the industry, providing you invaluable information and training DVDs that are included with your membership, and who stand ready to work with your lawyer on your defense. People like Massad Ayub, John Farnham, James Fleming, Tom Gibbons, Emmanuel Capelson, Dennis Tuller, and led by Network President Marty Hayes. Initial membership is only $135 for your first year, and you get 8 incredible training DVDs and other educational material when you join. If you don't have tens of thousands of dollars to defend yourself at your disposal right now, you need to be a member of the ACLDN. Go to armedcitizensnetwork.org and become a member today. And please mention that you heard about them on the Polite Society podcast.
Welcome back. This is the news segment of the Polite Society podcast, powered by the Second Amendment Foundation. I got to get this comment in here real quick. I was reading back on comments, and Robert says, I think there should be a choir when you mention Massad Ayub's name, kind of like when they mention Randolph Scott on Blazing Saddles. You know, that maybe could happen. Just saying that this production software I use could, and I cannot do it right now, but I can get that added. Just saying.
Did you see the Massad Ayub emptying the pockets of his vest video?
Oh my God! I can't believe he had all that stuff in his pockets. Unbelievable.
I have not yet.
You have to see it. He starts to talk about why he wears a vest, and he starts offloading, and it is hysterical.
Give yourself 7 minutes to watch the video. Like, he's pulling out, he's like, I've got a big book, I've got a small book, I've got a big gun, I've got a small gun, I've got magazines, I've got a pepper spray, I've got, like...
Here's a flashlight.
I was going to say, I don't think everything in there is weapons and ammunition. Just
no, it was like Mary Poppins' bag. It really was.
I got to know if this is true. Let me get that up. 2 sandwiches?
There were sandwiches.
Oh, yes. He took that right out of the Rob Campbell playbook.
Right. Because Kerrie Ann, Rob Campbell, we put him in the concealed carry fashion show, and we made him carry a man purse. So when he went down to do the reveal, he pulls out a sandwich. And then he takes a bite of his sandwich, then he pulls out his gun. It was hysterical.
All right.
Priorities.
Let's actually try to get some news in. I want to read this.
Come on, Paul.
I want to read this release that came out from SAF late last week. A federal judge in Texas has granted a preliminary injunction against the federal government's enforcement of the final rule regarding partially, manufactured firearm parts and kits in a case known as Vanderstock versus Garland, which challenged the authority of the Justice Department and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. I always say that should be a convenience store to regulate items that are not firearms as if they were firearms. Here's a quote from another person that needs a choir when their name is mentioned. Alan Gottlieb said, "This is a huge victory." Yes, the court's preliminary determination is pretty straightforward, and it notes that SAF and Defense Distributed are likely to succeed on the merits of their case against the receiver rule. The decision was issued by Judge Reed O'Connor for the First U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Texas, Fort Worth Division. His preliminary injunction applies to Defense Distributed and its clients. So this is, and let me get one quote in here from another of my bosses, Adam Kraut. "We are pleased with the court's ruling, which correctly finds we are likely to succeed on our claims," said Adam Kraut. Judge O'Connor agrees that ATF's final rule expanded the agency's authority over parts that may readily be converted into frames or receivers, which surpasses the authority granted by Congress. Even more compelling is that the judge agrees the ATF's rule unlawfully treats parts kits as firearms. It is refreshing to see rogue administrative agencies being reined in by the checks and balances of our system of government. Now, I'm not going to say go out and buy a lower 80% lower right now. I'm going to say that if you buy from Defense Distributed, you're more likely to be okay. I'm going to say this is great news, and there's more coming. But, anybody else want to chime in on this one real quick?
I'm going to start with winning. We are winning.
Yes.
And this one is not actually, I mean, it's a win that kind of leads to Bruin, but it's not really based on Bruin. It was more so based on the EPA versus West Virginia that came out, I believe, 2 days after Bruin. And so that was where the Supreme Court started to talk about government overreach of the alphabet and letter agencies in an area where they really cannot, they do not make law. They're supposed to enforce it, but Congress gets to make the law. And so this is one of those smack them back in their corner, and I love it.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, this is good stuff that they're doing this, and we do need to keep the government straightened out so that they don't get out of control and out of hand.
That's
for
right.
sure.
Well, speaking of government getting out of control and out of hand, let's talk about New Mexico for a second. One of Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham's key public safety initiatives may be in trouble, and she hinted the battle over such legislation may force a special session. In her State of the State address, the governor called for the legislature and public support to ban automatic weapons, saying they are the tools of war and they are flooding the streets and endangering both the public and police officers. But the tabling of one of her two legislative initiatives to ban automatic weapons earlier this week puts the other's fate into question, a point the governor acknowledged Tuesday during an interview at the Capitol. I want to get this quote in from the governor. "I wish I could say with a great deal of confidence that one is going to move through. I think one has the most difficulty getting through. She suggested she would call a special session if need be to get some of the public safety measures moving forward. We may have to stay longer or do it again," she said. This is look, if you are the governor, if you are the president of the United States, your job is to enforce federal law. If you are the governor of a state, your job is to enforce state law and to run the state. Your job is not, as a governor, to make your legislation go through. That's the legislative branch's job. This is, I look at this as a college coach going to the players and saying, you're going to stay here till you get it right.
Exactly. I mean, this is, I'm not getting my way, so we're going to do this until I get my way. And it's nonsense. It's complete nonsense that she wants to do this. Going back to the banning automatic weapons, so is she just going after fully auto stuff, or is she going after semi-auto stuff? Because the federal government has control over full auto, so I don't know why she's got her knickers in a twist.
For now, we'll just say for now.
Well,
but
not in some states have banned full auto. New York has a ban on full auto of all varieties, even if you've got a tax stamp.
Because they want to do an overlay, so they want to be able to control it. The interesting part, do you guys follow Stephanie Lord? She is a state rep in New Mexico.
Yes,
and
I've actually had her on the bullet quite a way. We need to get her back, but it's been quite a while.
I was going to say, you probably want her back sooner rather than later, because she is in the thick of this, fighting it. And so I just happened to this week hear somebody give her some advice about doing some kind of other bill. It was not a pro-gun bill. It was in the transgender and children segment of society, and she said that she was focusing her attention on the Second Amendment bills and trying to stave them off, and that but as you listen to her, it sounded like that state has gone so liberal that you don't think liberal in New Mexico at the same time. You really don't. And it's almost in the same category as California, at least as you're starting to hear some of it. Yeah. And so she's got a tough fight. So yeah.
The problem with New Mexico is it's a lot like California. There's New York. There's New York City, then there's the rest of the state. California, Los Angeles, and Sacramento, and then the rest of the state. Albuquerque, and then the rest of the state for New Mexico. It is huge, the amount of the difference in populations there.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me get this comment in here while we're still on this story, because it's a accurate comment. How many politicians know the difference between full and semi-auto?
They use them interchangeably.
Yeah,
they really do. And you know what? I sometimes wonder, can we blame this on ourselves? Because how many times do we hear FUDs talk about my 45 automatic when they really mean my 45 semi-automatic?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, except the term was ACP, automatic Colt pistol. So they're right. It's just then it got modified, but it was Colt named it automatic or auto loader.
This is true. Mm-hmm. I like to call them the bottom feeders.
I always thought it was automatic chambering pistol, but apparently, according to and I'm going to go ahead and say I am wrong on that, because I trust Rob Campbell, but I'd always thought it was automatic chambering pistol. So
no, yeah.
Well, I find it funny because they she says tools of war that are flooding the streets. What about the criminals that are being let back out on the streets? Because that's that's the problem.
Do we want to go down that? Let's go down that path for a minute.
Yes.
Let's just go down that path, because this is a whole segment that I did on my show on Sunday, so it's really fresh in my mind. And as a matter of fact, I sent most of my research to John Petrolino so that he can, the little ferret can dig out more stuff with it. But but the interesting thing is the states and the cities that are starting to look at criminals and criminal reform, and the data that has come out. And I was looking at Baltimore, Maryland. I was looking at Chicago. We were looking at Atlanta, and there was a couple others. And talking about, in one case, there was 106, 100 and change homicides in the prior year, and 88 of the people that were arrested for those homicides had a prior record of crimes of violence. More than 80% had a prior record of crimes of violence. When they started to look at the numbers, it looks like it's 75% or something thereabouts of their crime is just the wheels of justice that just keep letting them back out. And there were a couple of the people that they had arrested, and that they had been arrested. The one guy had been arrested the first time in like 1976, and had been arrested, had like 18 felonies, multiple at different times, and had been arrested, I don't know, 70 times or something. I mean, the numbers were amazingly huge. It has to be like the two sheepdogs crossing when the police officer looks at him and says, "Ernie, you're back," right? I mean, they have to know, how's the wife, how's the kids, how are you doing with training the dog?
And then they go back to beating the tar out of each other in the
But if they look
cartoon.
at the big picture, that's the problem. So I don't understand how they think they're going to take a tool away and that's going to solve everything.
Well, and I think that this is where the Bruin decision is telling them that they can't take away the guns, that they cannot restrict them in this way. They're going to have to address the root cause criminal reform. They're going to have to take the bad guys and make them not bad or not allow them to play in society. They're going to have to, and they just can't say, "Oh, well, they had a bad upbringing, and so we're just going to put them back out in society and let them beat your grandmother up." They're not going to be allowed to do that.
Again and 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 again. So I mean, I don't understand how they cannot look at that big picture. And
Charlie and I just about an hour ago were talking about a prosecutor in New Orleans that just over this past short while let 15 people out that had weapons violations as long as they gave up their guns. One of which, and I didn't have the ability to dig really deep and find out what type of it was reported as a guy was waving around an automatic rifle. Now,
was that the machine gun guy? This is the Louisiana judge, right?
Yes.
The one was from Tennessee.
Prosecutor, yes.
And the one was from Tennessee, and they're like, as long as you're from Tennessee and you're going back to Tennessee and you're willing to leave your gun here, then be gone. Get. So it's an interesting.
They're going to get another gun.
Well, so the question is, and you really want to look at this. In that case, they found that person not because he was doing anything wrong. I'm still there. So not that he was doing anything wrong, but that he had a bulge in his pants, and so they stopped him to frisk him because
they really wanted to know what that bulge was.
Obviously, I'm just saying. I'm not sure.
It really was a machine gun. He wasn't happy to see anybody.
He wasn't just happy to see him, right? But so the question is, what kind of machine gun? What kind of gun? Were they doing anything? Were they not doing anything? Were these people in response to the rise in crime saying, "I'm going to be armed because we're going to a place that's potentially dangerous"? And then that area said no guns at all, and so the area had said that it had a zero firearms policy. So I don't know if this. I thought it was a judge, but I don't know if they were the good guy or the bad guy. I don't know if they looked at it and said you hadn't done anything, so you just have a gun, and the Second Amendment says you can have a gun, so I have to keep it, but be gone with you, or if they had done something that was criminal, and so there's not enough information to know if they're the good guy or the bad guy.
Yeah. I want to get a couple comments in here real fast. Robert says, come on, we all know that criminals only use guns, not knives or clubs or other weapons, and if they make them illegal, the criminals won't use them anymore.
Right?
Sure.
Yeah, tongue very firmly planted in cheek. Jack Need on the Facebook side says, problem is Cali libs have moved to the cities in surrounding states, spreading their ridiculous policies like a disease across the surrounding states. There is
and he's got a little picture of a disease germ. I was like, what's he doing? Sending us jelly beans?
Nope. It's a germ.
It's a germ.
A comment that's coming from a Facebook group, which means I don't get the name, but we did get a comment come in. Do anti-gun politicians blame JFK's assassination on Lee Harvey Oswald, or do they blame the rifle? Probably the hardware. That's their problem. Their lies to the unaware. Yeah.
I think they blame Sinatra.
I was going to say in the Lee Harvey Oswald JFK, there's still the whole thing of was the rifle really in the stairway or not, right?
Right.
All right.
Is it really him?
We're going to end up with two news segments, and I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to bail on a segment slightly early. We're going to do an ad, and then when we come back, we've got a lot more news to cover. We'll be right back right after we hear from the Complete Combatant right now. This portion of the Polite Society podcast is brought to you by The Complete Combatant. The Complete Combatant is designed for a broad base of citizens that range from students that don't own a gun on up to advanced students that train often. The Complete Combatant offers several different courses that build upon each other, from avoidance, using verbal commands, and preparing for contact, lethal versus non-lethal decisions, your 911 call, interacting with the police, to even dealing with the legal system in the aftermath. The Complete Combatant courses are a layered approach for all levels of experience that will walk you through all the many stages of decisions while developing a game plan tailored to your skills and your everyday carry. Please visit www.thecompletecombatant.com and make sure you mention this ad to receive 15% off. Again, that's www.thecompletecombatant.com and mention the ad for 15% off. Hey, and welcome back to the second news segment of the Polite Society podcast, presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. I want to get straight into our next one. This one out of Illinois. This is another one that just causes my brain to go, especially after the Bruin decision. Attorney General, we got this off the Chicago Sun-Times, so you got to understand the source. Illinois Attorney General Kwame Raoul on Thursday filed a brief defending Illinois' assault weapon ban, arguing the weapons restricted by the newly enacted law aren't commonly used for self-defense and that large-capacity magazines are accessories, not arms. It also argues the country's founding father owned guns that could only fire a single shot before reloading, proving assault weapons and large-capacity magazines weren't in common use when the Constitution was ratified. The assault weapons restricted by the Act are not commonly used for self-defense by design, and in practice they exist for offensive infliction of mass casualties, the brief states. It also argues the term arms refers to weapons, not accessories, and that large-capacity magazines, therefore, are not protected under the Second Amendment's right to bear arms. I'm gonna hold my, because my blood pressure medication is right there. So I'm going to hold my comments for a few seconds. Anyone else want to take off on this one first?
Yes, I'm trying to go to the AG. I call him the AGAG, the Anti-Gun Attorney General. I'm trying to find out how long he's been in office, because all of this sounds like something that a brand new Democrat says when they get in office, and it's right down the playbook of they didn't have these back then, and our founding fathers didn't know about this, and there's no way they could have known about this technology, and that's not what they meant. And magazines aren't part of arms, they're not part of guns, it's an accessory, and all this nonsense is what it is. And I can't quite tell. His website's been around since 2018. I'm not sure when he became the AGAG in Illinois. So I'm not sure, but it sounds like the rhetoric that we hear all the time.
Yeah.
I just want to say puckle gun.
Yes. Yes.
So the puckle gun, Puckle, the puckle gun was patented in 1718, and it was a revolving cylinder type looking gun. It kind of was Gatling gun-ish, but the puckle gun was around, if we're talking Bruin, 1791? So 1718 is before that. So take that, Mr. Kwame, whatever your name is.
Well,
Raoul.
Yeah, I want to...
Raoul.
There was the ability to own full-on warships when the Constitution was ratified, including cannon. And so I'm guessing that because these were single-shot cannon, he wouldn't have a problem with me buying a full-on warship and parking it in Lake Michigan just off the coast of Chicago. I don't think he'd have a problem with that.
No, and when you fire a cannon and the two cannonballs, the half and the chain between them, kind of thing. So would that be considered a singular shot, or would that be a singular shell, or would that be? Because it could take out a grouping,
yes,
a large group, forest, if you will.
Yep. Eventually, yes.
Oh yeah, it didn't take long. If you were there and that ball and chain literally came at you, you were not. Well, multiple pieces of you were there then.
Yeah.
There was more of you.
Yes. Not. There were more pieces of you, not necessarily more of you. But Robert says the use for self-defense is a red herring. There's nothing in the Constitution about self-defense, and Hellard said commonly used for lawful purposes. Great point, Robert.
Yeah.
So let's see here. All right, this next one. This still. We're going to lean on you, Amanda, for this one in a few seconds, but I want to get through the story first. Columbus gun owners will have until July 1st to get rid of 30 or more round magazines to comply with the new city ordinance. This week, meaning last week actually, the council passed legislation to clarify ordinance that was passed in December as a part of the council's so-called common sense gun laws. While city leaders call the ban on higher round magazines common sense, some gun owners say it will not make a difference on crime. Overnight, we have taken law-abiding citizens who bought an item legally and turned them into a criminal, an opponent said. Anyone who violates this city ordinance could be sentenced up to 180 days in jail without work release. That's a career ender right there. No matter where you're at, if you go to you call up your boss and say, look, I got tagged for a magazine. I'm going to have to be in jail for 180 days. By the way, I cannot have work release. Say goodbye to your job.
Yeah, pretty much. So the interesting part is that Ohio has preemption. And so this this city ordinance is in violation to Ohio's preemption law. But we've got an activist judge who has declared this. So it has got to work its way up. The interesting part is the 11th District Circuit Court, which is in the northern part of the state. I so hope it gets to them, because we actually have a judge in the 11th District that is a gun shop owner and an FFL holder that is a sitting judge in the district court. But I fully expect that I know that there are people who are looking for people with standing who are willing to speak up, but you have to live in that community to be able to do that. And Buckeye Firearms is all over it. There is no doubt, but it's just something that's going to have to slowly work through the courts, and somebody's going to have standing, and potentially somebody is going to have been arrested, or at least say that they are willing to break the law to be able to have standing to get there. So,
yeah, that's unfortunate. You have to prove that you're harmed by the law to be able to take down the law. That's unfortunate.
Right.
I mean, we could sell this like as some kind of a forced diet plan, that for 180 days, all there is to do is read, exercise, and eat prison food. And so you probably aren't going to be tempted by Girl Scout cookies and cupcakes then. So maybe somebody will be willing to take us up on it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know anybody in Columbus I don't know anybody in Columbus right now, period. So,
well, it's interesting. Dean Reek is there, who's head of Buckeye Firearms, and as is Linda Walker, who's on the board of directors of the NRA. So there's people that are right there that are big guns, and so they're not going to take this sitting down. There's no doubt about it. So Dean Reek would be another one that I would recommend that you may want to have on the bullet for this story.
Absolutely. Charlie or Kerrie Ann, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah, my thought on
Charlie.
My thoughts on it are: how are they going to know that you have a large capacity magazine unless they search your house? These are unserialized items. You can't keep track of them. There's no born on date. You don't know when they're made, and how are they going to know? I mean, I feel like that TikTok video. How are they going to know? No, they're not going to know. They're going to know. They're not going to know.
They're only going to know when your house burns down, or when they when your house burns down, or when some reason that they have cause. I mean, think about the Boston bomber. This is the one that goes back to in my head every time. When that freaky Tsarnaev brother, or Tsarnaev, I don't know how to say his name. When he went and hid in the community, and the police turned all the phones off, and they went door to door, and they insisted that they were coming into your house and they were looking for this guy. Okay, so, and you had no choice. This is the government. They're coming to do this. So you couldn't call anybody. You couldn't get help. If you needed help, you couldn't get help because they shut down your phones. And so now they come into your house, and let's say that you just have a hobby of growing little green plants, right? Or you have, your dog doesn't have a license, or I don't know.
You got
all
beige
of
ceilings, or
yes, all of us have something to where that law may be a suggestion, not a law. Look at us, we're all speeders anyhow. So that's how Americans are. And so when they come for whatever reason, look at East Palestine, Ohio, where they're telling everybody they have to get out. And if they didn't get out, they tell them they have to get out, right? Because the chemicals are there. So now they've got this regulation. How are they going to know? And then something else happens. Now that's how they know.
Yes, absolutely.
Those are the circumstances. Kerrie Ann?
I just don't understand, because it says common sense. There's no common sense on that. How it's almost like they're automatically categorizing us, the responsible gun owners, as the bad guy, we're following the laws, we're following the rules, we're protecting ourselves with our firearm. People, the bad guys, don't follow the rules. So there's no common sense with this to me.
Well, I think they've usurped that word. And to go back to answering the question, they're going to take away your Thin Mints. They're not giving you new ones if you want to go to, you want to try the prison program. No Thin Mints. You're banished.
How many Thin Mints? How many Thin Mints are you going to miss? 6 months worth.
Yes.
Right.
Also, the coconut delights are out. So yes.
Yeah, it's all out.
And then one more New York Outcast. I would move. No way I'd trust them on that one in PA. And 500 Magnum. By the first time he's checked in today, he said, by the way, how dare you have that evil survival knife without the government's permission? Yes.
Right.
I want to move on to, and I really wanted to cover this story. This probably should have been our lead story. This is off of Reuters.com. Again, not exactly a pro-freedom place to get your news, but legislation being pursued by Republicans in several U.S. states aims to limit the use of a planned merchant code for credit card transactions at gun retailers meant to detect suspicious firearms and ammunition sales, undermining a tool. Yes, there are lots of them there. A tool welcomed by gun control advocates. More tools. The bills were introduced in states including Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Oklahoma, West Virginia, and Wyoming. They would prohibit or limit banks or payment processors from using the Merchant Category Code, or MCC, approved for gun sellers in September by the Geneva-based non-governmental International Organization for Standardization, which develops standards on various aspects of technology and manufacturing. Discover last week said that starting in April, they're going to start using this Merchant Category Code. And if there's something they think that they see that is alarming, they're going to start informing police agencies. Well, I'm guessing in Florida, this is already the law. It's already been signed. And it's $10,000 per occurrence fine to Discover, MasterCard, Visa, whoever, for every time they use that Merchant Category Code. I'm thinking they won't be using it for long if things like this go forward. I'm hoping so, at least. And I wish South Dakota's legislature hadn't passed their crossover date, because otherwise I'd never thought of this. I'd be on the phone to several South Dakota legislators saying, let's get this here. But
I shared that Reuters story with a stack of my legislators, and I'm sure to bring it up tomorrow. So that it's going to be an interesting situation to watch this. So there's a couple things in here. The International Standards Organization, the ISO, is the same one who does ISO 9001, 14001, the one that says that companies have to be environmentally clean, the 13149, the medical imaging. So it is an organization that creates standards as their profit center. They sell nothing but regulations that they have, that society expects others to do, and then they sell inspectors to come and check to make sure you do it, so that you're certified to that. So they have nothing to lose by trying to implement this, and as a matter of fact, they have something to gain because it becomes a profit center for them.
yeah, it absolutely does. And again, this Merchant Category Code was sent. The request was sent to ISO by Amalgamated Bank out of New York, which is a bank founded by unions that they pride themselves on being a socially conscious bank. Right. And yeah, I support the laws that say you cannot do this. I don't like new laws, period, but laws that limit the ability to infringe on our freedoms, I do like. Let me send this one out. Let me get this one up. Can we get a code for fake bacon? Those are the folks I want watched.
They call that faking, right?
And then, again, God bless you, Pete, over at Gun Website says, but without rigid mandatory standardization, we would be left with creative freedom. Creative freedom. Come on, man.
Right. Exactly.
Come on, man.
All right.
Come on, man. I read a number of years ago. I read Barry Goldwater's book, Conscience of a Conservative, and I know we're not a political show necessarily. It's pro-gun, anti-gun, but one of the things that one of the phrases Barry Goldwater used, I absolutely loved, and this was 15 years ago when I read this. It was called maximum individual freedom, and I was like, oh man, that is what I want. I want some maximum individual freedom, and I don't want to, I try not to support businesses that don't agree with me or I don't agree with what they're up to or what they're doing or who they're advertising with or who their spokesperson is, because I don't want to give them money. And I think this is the same sort of thing. I do remember at the beginning of the pandemic looking this up, and I don't know if I'm wrong or not, but I do remember saying something that said in order to start a credit union, all you needed was $25,000. And like, it would be kind of cool to have the pro-gun bank where we're like, hey, listen, here's a credit card you can use. We're not going to restrict anything that you're doing. If you want to spend this money at your local gun store, go ahead, rock on, man. We're in the business of making money off of your interest rates and all that sort of stuff. So like, it would be really cool to have someone do that.
Yeah, it would. Got two more stories, and I kind of want to get to them both here real quick. And we're a little late, but we're going to be late. Next break will be coming in about 10 minutes. So San Jose is not enforcing its gun insurance requirement. If you've been watching the show for quite a while, or if you followed the bullet for the last several months, you know that San Jose put forward a requirement that all gun owners must now have insurance, and they must pay $25 a year to the city so the city can give it to a non-profit organization that curbs gun violence. Well, officials in one California city has not attempted to enforce their novel requirement that gun owners buy specialized insurance. San Jose has yet to issue a single citation to any of its 52,000 gun owners for failing to buy insurance since the ordinance went into effect at the beginning of the year. According to a report from the San Jose Insider, the city has defaulted to an honor system for the insurance mandate, and officials have no idea whether anyone has actually bought the insurance they've mandated. A little bit of a clue: they haven't, because it does not exist. You don't accept ACLDN. You do not accept any of the other
U.S. Law Shield.
It's not the kind of insurance they want. They want you to insure each gun. So here's the problem with that. So there's a couple problems with this. The law is still on the books, even though they say they're not enforcing it. That doesn't mean that the next guy won't, and so you're a lawbreaker just by ignoring it. There's that. The second part is, in order to insure your guns, you have to register your guns. Your insurance company is not willing to insure your car and say, trust me, I have one in the garage, right? They want the VIN number. They want to know the mileage. They want to know the condition. They want to know things about it. And, oh, by the way, they don't have any restrictions that say that they have to keep that information safe and secure and not allow it to be hacked and get in other people's hands. So right now, your guns don't have to, nobody else has to have a list of them except for in this community. That's a problem. That's a huge violation of your Second Amendment and your civil rights. And if you go down that path, so the only answer is move, because if you don't abide by the law, you're a lawbreaker, and they can come back and get you. If you do abide by the law, you have now in effect registered your guns, and they can come and take them.
You bet they can. You bet they can. Big John 410, you're absolutely right. These are Jim Crow laws. They absolutely are. One more story here, real quick, and then we'll discuss, and we'll go to break at the top of the hour. Will the third time be the charm for constitutional carry becoming law in Louisiana? City Representative Danny McCormick sure hopes so. Currently in Louisiana, an adult is required to have a permit to concealed carry a gun. According to USConcealedCarry.com, Louisiana is a shall-issue state, and concealed weapons permits are processed at the state level by the Department of Public Safety. An adult can own a gun without a permit, but not a concealed carry gun without a permit. That's not quite exactly. You can own whatever you want. You just can't carry it unless you have a permit. The legislature does have concealed carry in its list of things to consider. I believe Louisiana just got started. They start later than a lot of states. They just got started on their legislative process. Unfortunately, Rob Morse is not here tonight. He's underwater somewhere. I wish I was. But we can't ask Rob how it's going. So,
but you read this slightly wrong, Paul. It's an adult can own a gun without a permit, but cannot conceal carry a gun, or cannot conceal carry that gun without a permit.
Okay.
So the word, there's an A in there, but it was in the wrong spot for interpretation.
I was, as
Reading
usually
fast.
happens, especially lately, my mouth gets ahead of my brain, and sometimes my eyes that are reading. So,
I think about this every time I teach a class, and it's something I think about when I teach a class, but nothing I think about when I'm done teaching the class. But I think I'm like, hey, that was a good idea. I should do this. I would like to come up with some sort of a chart that lists the different ways that people can own firearms. And what I mean is, in Massachusetts, you cannot have anything, rifles, shotguns, handguns, or ammunition, without a permit. But in some states, you have to have permits if you want to have handguns, but not long guns. Or some states, you don't have to have a permit for anything unless you want to carry. And some states, you don't have to have permits for anything unless you're carrying concealed. You don't have to have one if you're carrying open. And it would be kind of a handy chart to have to figure all these things out. Because when I talk to people that have just moved here and say, well, I talked to a woman a couple weeks ago, and she wanted to learn how to shoot, and she's like, I've been here for 2 years. She's like, can we meet at the range? I'm like, we can, but if you get pulled over on the way to the range, you're going to become a felon. You can't own the guns that you have. And she's like, well, then I'm going to get my license first and call you. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good call. So, it does get confusing with you can have if you have a permit, you can open carry, and
it's ridiculous.
It's exhausting.
It's ridiculous. And it becomes confusing when somebody's moving from one state to another, because we hear it all the time in Massachusetts.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All the time.
Absolutely.
And they're like, what do you mean? I can't have this? Okay, let's have a conversation. Welcome to Massachusetts.
I mean, and the crazy part is really, according to federal law, when you move from one state to another, I believe that you cannot move those guns. You're supposed to take them to an FFL, have them shipped in, and then transfer them in. That way they can check to make sure that the guns are acceptable in your state. If you visit someplace, you're allowed to take them with you. But if you move, you're not supposed to do that.
I think it's
I don't want a show of hands of how many people have moved and ignore that, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, Paul, you're
Paul doesn't even want to talk about it.
He's like
muted.
I can track on the podcast who is listening right down to what city they're getting the show out of. I cannot track that on video. But on podcast, I will say this. The number one area for downloads citywide for Polite Society Podcast is Washington, D.C. So,
really?
They are watching you.
Well, they're at least, at the very least, they're listening.
They're
at
listening.
the very least.
Oh,
All right, let's head off to break. I want to get to our DGU segment, and then we're at 1 hour into the show, so we're gonna get to our commercial break here. Then we'll come back with our defensive gun use segment, and we'll do that right after we hear from JPFO. Right back after this, folks.
In 1928, Germany required its citizens to register their firearms, making possible Hitler's 1938 Nazi Weapons Act, disarming all Jews. Now ask yourself, what is the real consequence of registration? All in favor of gun control, raise your right hand. Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership, America's aggressive civil rights organization. jpfo.org.
Hey, and welcome back. This is the Defensive Gun Use segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. These discussions are not legal advice. Some of us are trainers, but this is not formal training, and you need formal training. The Defensive Gun Use segment is intended as information and entertainment only, not as training. As always, the opinions of the hosts are only their own opinions and not those of any sponsors or other affiliations, although they should be. First one we got, it looks like El Paso. And Kerrie Ann, I see your name in front of this one. Do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. So El Paso, Texas. The gun prohibitists are more than willing to spout out their cook statistics when it comes to shooting, which involves multiple victims. The various sites will ignore the fact that many of these shootings involved many other crimes, gang activities, domestic situations, and so on. Things that keep the same events out of the FBI statistics. So, a 16-year-old male pulled out a handgun and fatally shot Angelus, if I'm pronouncing it right, and a 17-year-old injured another 17-year-old and a 15-year-old when confronted. When confronted, it escalated into a physical fight. In, am I pronouncing this right? Visalia Mall, Vista Mall?
Sila Vista, I believe it is.
Sila Vista. Also, the mall was. Also in the mall was Emilio Juverin, 32 years old, who is licensed to carry in Texas. He witnessed the shooting happening and shot the suspect before he could continue shooting other bystanders. As suspects started running towards Duran and other bystanders, Duran drew and shot. Duran was also considered a victim in the shooting. Duran and an off-duty El Paso police officer worked to give aid to the injured, including the suspect. Investigators also learned at least 2 more people were allegedly armed, but were not involved in the shooting. So a good guy did some good things with a gun.
Yeah, absolutely. This is another. This one reminds me a little bit of the Indiana mall shooting where the bad guy was able to kill one person and then was stopped by a good guy with a gun from a fantastic distance away. I don't think this one was as far away, but and I don't know if this was going to be a mass shooting or not. Or mass killing or not.
It looked like it was a gang-related type thing where he shot So he was 16 years old. He shot a 17-year-old, another 17-year-old, a 15-year-old. And so because it started as a verbal altercation that turned into a physical fight and then turned into a shooting.
Yeah.
Right.
Sounds like it was at the Silo Vista Mall. It sounds like it could have been at the Ostla Vista Mall.
I will say this: the reason the good guy with the gun shot the bad guy with the gun is because after the bad guy was done shooting the other bad guys, as it appears, he started running away and was pointing his gun towards
more people
where the good guy with the gun was. Good guy with the gun says, "I don't think so." Stops the threat, does not eliminate the threat, but does stop it. and the police show up. An off-duty police officer was hired for security for the mall shows up, and together the good guy with the gun and the police officer render aid. When this story initially broke, it was police stop a mall shooting in San Antonio, and then the news got out that, well, no, it was actually a good guy, and then the news got out it was actually a good guy in our circle in the Second Amendment media, but you never heard a word in mainstream media that it was a regular person that ended this.
Nope.
No, and then you don't hear anything else in the mainstream media. It just dies. It's sort of like the Lansing
I was
killer.
just going to say that.
If it doesn't fit a certain narrative, if you're not the right age or the right color or the right whatever to be the bad guy or to be the good guy, whichever, then they just drop it.
Yeah.
No. And you don't hear what happens at the end, like you said. It's awful. I want to know what happened. No one ever talks about it.
I mean, one of my things is the anti-gun folks will come out and say, well, we need more gun laws, and teenagers shouldn't be able to get guns legally, and I guarantee that they didn't. I always remind people it's federally illegal for a teenager to purchase a handgun. So however they got the gun, it was not through legal means.
Yeah.
Well, and when they start to talk, I mean, in a lot of the mass shooting stuff, it's like, look, he shot his grandmother in the face first. He shot his mother. He killed this person or he killed that person first. And they're like, well, he shouldn't have been able to get it. Well, he murdered to get it.
Right.
So
exactly.
What part of this do you not understand?
I'm wondering, Texas is generally a fairly good state for gun laws. I'm not going to say they're great. They're good. They're in the top half because they are now permitless carry. I'm wondering if this particular mall had anti-guns, that had no guns allowed. You have to have very specific signs in Texas, but you can put up signs that say no guns are allowed here, and then legally you're in trouble if you carry. I wonder if this mall had those signs up.
See, I thought that some states, like here, if we have a no gun free zone, if it's like, let's say, a movie theater, it's not a law here. It's their regulations. So you can't legally get in trouble. But not all states are like that.
Yeah, it would be prosecuted as trespassing if you were discovered and then asked to leave and you didn't. Yeah.
Right.
So,
yep.
I just looked up the mall here.
Yeah. Go ahead, Charlie.
I just looked up the mall here, and it's owned by the Simon Properties, and I do believe there are some malls that are owned by Simon here in Massachusetts, and I'm pretty sure that they're an anti-gun group.
Would not shock me at all.
They have a sign, and so they have a code of conduct that includes no gun zones.
So it was in a gun-free zone. And the Indiana Mall, that was a gun-free zone as well. It had the anti-gun signs, but Indiana, just like Texas, if you're discovered, well, I do not know about Texas specifically, but I know in Indiana, if there's a no-gun sign up and you go there anyway, they have to discover you're carrying and ask you to leave and you not to leave before you actually break any laws.
Well, the interesting part is the way that they have this sign written, the concealed carry holders know that it does not apply to them. So it says, while the sign in the Silla Vista Mall door says no weapons, the director of training at Sportsman's Elite, a gun shop and shooting range in West El Paso, explains that the sign does not apply to licensed to carry holders. So in some cases, we've seen this in other states where they will put verbiage in that makes illegal guns illegal and satisfies a lot of the uninformed anti-gunners. Yet at the same time, the pro-gun people know that sign does not apply to them.
Right, like the and I bring this up sometimes. I know Tennessee has this, and Paul, you've said that South Dakota has an enhanced permit. So there's places that you cannot carry, but there are places that you can carry with the enhanced permit.
Yes. Woods on YouTube says Tacoma Mall, Simon Property has gang shootings on in a month or so. So once a month, yeah.
Once a month, yeah.
It's perfect. Gun-free zone. That's why.
There you go.
There's a. Yep.
500 Magnum says they always those stupid gun-free zones at voting places drives me crazy. Thankfully, my polling place here in South Dakota is not a gun-free zone. So
there you go.
Yep.
Think about it. The one place you don't want gang activity, you don't want anything like any violence going on, is in a polling place. They ought to be asking people with concealed carry permits, come in, vote 8-10 times a day, please.
Come on, this isn't Chicago.
One vote.
All right, I'm going to take this next one. This is off Fox 10 Phoenix. Authorities in Virginia said a homeowner shot a naked woman who broke into his home and attacked him with a frying pan. The Carroll County Sheriff's Office said the incident happened on February 26th before deputies received a report on a shooting at, and I'm not going to read the address. Deputies arrived and found the woman shot in the leg. First responders treated and transported her to a local hospital. Investigators said the homeowner heard a noise coming from the back of his home. When he checked it out, he found an unknown naked woman who was coming through the door. She then began hitting the homeowner with a cast iron frying pan. The homeowner was able to get the woman out of the house before securing his home. However, the woman went back to the back porch and began turning off the electrical breakers and began beating on the kitchen window while yelling at the homeowner to get out of her house, threatening to kill him. Moments later, the homeowner grabbed his gun and shot the woman in the lower leg area. Wow. Yeah, somebody's trying to break into your home. Most states have a castle doctrine. But coming at you with a frying pan, I can easily see where you could articulate a valid threat to your life with somebody swinging a frying pan at you.
Well, and
Yeah,
since
somebody-
he'd gotten her out and she kept coming back. It wasn't that he didn't try less than lethal force first.
Yeah.
Charlie?
Was this his frying pan or her frying pan? Because if it's his frying pan, I want Kevin Sona to know you're more likely to get beat by a naked woman with your own frying pan.
Charlie Cook's going shopping for cast iron right after this show. It'll increase his odds of having a naked woman in his house.
My odds. Exactly,
And you can cook your fish.
Oh yeah, that's delicious. It never used. So Rob, I'm going to pull up a Rob Morris line here, and let's check the woman's toxicology report.
Yes. George wants to know, was it a full auto frying pan? I couldn't. I literally just pulled that one up. I don't have any deeper research into that one. So I do not know if it was full auto, semi-auto, or single shot. I do not know. So maybe the important question would be, was it properly seasoned or was it rusty and, you know.
Right.
All right, let's.
Nobody asked the question. Where was her pants?
I imagine the same place as the rest of her clothes.
Pants on, pant off, pan on.
Charlie.
You know what? I will say this. I did go out a few years ago and buy a cast iron pan, and I keep it on the top of my stove just in case somebody comes in. I need to beat the hell out of them. Just in case.
You know.
Let's face it. I don't cook with it. I think I've cooked with it twice, maybe.
All right. Well, let's do this. We got one more break coming. Then we're going to come back. We're going to talk about our media involvement, and we're going to shut the show down. We'll be right back for our final segment, folks, right after this.
It all failed before. Alcohol prohibition brought us organized crime, and no less alcohol. Drug prohibition brought us murderous, no-knock, wrong house raids.
Police, search warrant! warrant!
No, wait! The crack house is next door!
Now gun prohibitionists want laws to lead us down that same path. Don't Americans ever learn? Just ask yourself, isn't government the only beneficiary of police-state policies? Brought to you by Jews for the Preservation of Firearms Ownership. Information available at jpfo.org.
And welcome back to the final segment of the Polite Society podcast presented by the Second Amendment Foundation. Normally at this point I say, Rob, what's up going on over at Slowfax? Well, as I said earlier in the show, Rob's underwater somewhere, so I'm going to encourage you to go to his blog. That's at slowfax.wordpress.com. And then he would ask John, well, John, what's been going on at Only Guns and Money? John would explain what he's been doing, and John's not here tonight either, so I'm going to encourage you to go to Slowfax, or excuse me, I'm sorry, onlygunsandmoney.com. So I'm going to start with Charlie, because Charlie, I know you're always doing stuff in media. What have you got that's come out recently or going to be coming out recently or that you want to plug, bud?
All right. Well, last week I put out a show with Rhonda Mary, who she was a lot of fun to have on the show. I interviewed her back in Dallas. Next week I'm going to have a show with Clover Tack. So it's going to be good to have him on the show. He is a YouTube pro when it comes to figuring out how to make the YouTube work. I'm also going to be on his show next Thursday at 9 o'clock Eastern. And I think this month the Armed Lifestyle magazine is going to be releasing. So I have an article about our good friend Yehuda Reamer, the Pew Pew Jew, that's going to be coming out there. And it has been a while, but today I filmed 2 gungrams that I need to get out. One of them is for somebody in France, and the other one is for one of our friends who has he has one of the most downloaded podcasts in Cambodia. So I got a special gungram coming out for him.
And
Nice.
Cambodia, I'm hoping you get permitless carry in the very near future.
Yes,
I
let's
wouldn't
hope so.
bank on
I'm
it,
sure with me doing the national anthem as a gungram, it's going to be a big push in Cambodia to get them some constitutional carry.
There you go. There you go. Mando, anything, of course, tell us about what's been going on, what's going to be going on Eye on the Target Radio, and anything else you want to plug.
So, well, Eye on the Target Radio, we will this next week have Rob Morris on, because last week he pretty much roasted me for not having him on. And so that there is that. And right now it's just there's a lot of stuff happening. The DC Project is extremely active in a variety of states. And we're doing a fundraising and speaking event that's going to happen at Hillsdale College in Michigan. And as you guys know, the Michigan, they're coming after the Michigan guns hard. And the election gave them primarily Democrats in most of their key elected offices, and so it's cleared the way. So they're taking a hit. They're taking a beating. So we'll see how that goes. Here's the deal: is if you hear these cool gun laws that are passed in other states, pass them to your state rep. If you live in free America, let them see that they're there, because in some cases they're looking for legislation. They just don't know that it exists, or that somebody's already kind of drafted it. And it's much easier to take something and work it than it is to start from scratch. And so those are really good ideas to kind of share and get across. And then stay tuned. I'm working with there's the Safer Community Act that was passed last year on a national level that hardened the schools, did some stuff with mental health, and it was kind of the latest anti-gun bill that the Biden crime family passed. Wait, did I say that? But there is some actual money in there for things on hardening the schools. So I am working with my congressman and Faster Saves Lives to see if we can get part of that money to at least do the Stop the Bleed portion for Faster, to fund that on a national level, to start to introduce people to faster and then free up some of the other money and move it around. So keep your fingers crossed, but I think that we've got a really good chance that we'll be making a difference there.
All right, awesome. Very cool. Kerrie Ann, you said earlier in the show you'd filmed a couple more episodes. Tell us about Sisters in Arms, and anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, so Sisters in Arms is actually created with my friend and I, Renee Gagne, and it's an Access Channel show that we record in Taunton, Massachusetts, and it just really took off, and we post it on YouTube as well, and it's really based on, for Massachusetts gun owners. It's a resource for Massachusetts. Whether you're for guns or against guns, we're here to try to educate you and educate the public in any way we can. So it's really taken off, and we're very excited because today we actually had Karen Ellery Jones, and she's the Assistant State Director for Samaritans of Cape Cod and the Islands. And we're going to be working with her a lot more regarding mental health and trying to bridge the gap between mental health and firearm ownership as well. So we're really excited about that. We're also really focusing on Massachusetts launching a gun law listening tour. So there's going to be many more to come. So the DC project is revving up for that. And I am actually doing a digital meet and greet for tomorrow night, actually, a Zoom meeting. So if you are in Massachusetts and you're interested in learning more about the DC project here in Massachusetts, just contact me at sistersinarms2022@gmail.com, and I can give you the link, and you can jump on and find out more about the DC project and what we do here in Massachusetts. So
very cool. I got to get this one going back to our last segment. This is a person in a Facebook group says, all cast iron matters. I love that.
That's
good. All right. On my end, this is just the beginning of my week. I do want to encourage everybody, please do come join me 5 p.m. Central Time all the rest of the week for the Bullet. Tomorrow is Craig DeLuz for the Bullet. Wednesday is Amanda Suffecool. Thursday, I believe, is Mike Piwowarski. And then Friday is back to this Friday is Legal Friday with Alex Uli. And Saturday,
let Amanda Suffecool give you some advance notice that she's going to be meeting with the head of the Ohio Republican Party on that date and will not be available.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll get that straightened around. I mean, who's more important, me or the head of Ohio's Republicans? I mein, come on. Anyway, don't answer that. Don't answer that.
Right, he's right here.
Let's. I do want to remind everybody, this coming up Saturday at 12 noon Central Time. I'm really looking forward to this. Her first appearance on the Bullet. Let me get my calendar up here because I do not want to screw this up. And load, darn you. On Saturday, we have coming up, Tom Walls is making a rare Saturday appearance on the Bullet on Saturday. Also, Rebecca Schmoy out of Kansas. She's a Kansas state rep, is going to be joining us for the Saturday Bullet. And Alex Uli will be back on for the Saturday Bullet.
Nice.
Reason I'm really excited about Rebecca Schmoy is she is, if you've heard of 1 Million Moms Against Gun Control, that's Rebecca. She got so fed up with the way things were going in her district in Kansas, she ran for and won a House representative seat in Kansas. And they're still working down there. She's taking time out of a Saturday to come join us for the Bullet. I'm really excited about that. So that's going to do it for us here. I want to say for Amy, Dana, Susan, Amanda, Robin, Charlie, Kerrie Ann, and Rob.
Until next time.
Stay safe.
Be aware.
And we'll see you down the road.
The views and opinions on the show you just heard are those of the host and the guest and are not necessarily the views of any sponsors or other affiliations. But hey, not everyone is as smart as we are.
Okay, recording is stopped. We're still live on streams, but I got to get this one up. C&T Designs and Arms, I think Kerrie has you confused with somebody else. He said, didn't Kerrie testify in front of Congress? I don't think that was you.
No.
Not yet. It's not no, it's just not yet.
I like that, not yet.
That is an awesome answer.
So here's the other thing to keep an eye out for. I just got a text from Philip Topino that May Topino, the 14-year-old that testified in Tallahassee with me, was on Cam Edwards' show. So I don't know if he just recorded it or if it was today. So May is absolutely making a difference. And so keep an eye out for her. Isn't she great?
Oh, that was amazing.
And he came back with, okay, wrong, but she should. And so there
Bingo.
you go. All right.
She will. She will.
I will.
I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to shut the streams down, folks. I'm going to talk with my team here for a few minutes, then I got to get out of here. I've been in this studio since about noon this time, sitting in this chair since about noontime, and that's 7.5 hours, and I'm ready to go walk this off. Thank you for watching. Thank you for contributing by commenting. Everybody, thank you.